Catherine. Desiree. Olga. Sixta. Sean.
Please. My breath's kicking like man down.
Caitlin.
Here.
Joseph.
That's bad.
Yeah, I know.
Pete. Brandon. Johnny. All right. Just 4 weeks left after this. That's it.
I know it's a couple class periods.
We can start another one over again next semester. All over again. You don't, but
Are you teaching finance and math in the summer?
online.
Or you teach online?
I hate online.
Yeah, they get. They just don't get the lecture. They get everything else with that. But yeah, they get a little bit more. Amazingly, I've gotten like maybe 5 emails from that class all semester. As far as for problems or questions, that's it. So I'm assuming it's okay, you know, I don't know. Their grades are fine. But. Okay, so we're going into something different today. Completely different. So chapter 12 and 13, if you found they were very similar, they were very repetitive, maybe, I hate to use the word boring, possibly for some of you. The lessons learned are good though, but chapter 14 is totally different, all right? So,
Chapter 14.
I'll be doing some abbreviating here. These are 3 formulas, and the reason I've put them in, with the arrows is because this is the order that you would normally do these in when they're presented on a problem. You would do the amount financed first, then you would get the finance charge. The finance charge is also called, or it's the same thing as the interest. Finance charge. After that, you're able to get the deferred payment price, which is very simple. You're going to love this chapter because it involves about 5 different tables.
All right.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic. So. But then after this, well, I can't promise totally. I think this is the one that has the most table usage in it. So after this, the last 3 chapters, you won't have a whole lot of. There might be 1 or 2, what I remember. So, if any. But this one's heavy in table usage, so get ready for it. Of course, they give you the table links, in the problems, like you'll see on Monday. They always give you that link to the table, so that kind of saves you. I wonder if I can disable that. I never looked at that. If I take it to where it doesn't show, then you don't have it. Then we have to use your book.
No,
I'll take a look at that.
I like that table.
Maybe next semester. Every semester I'm being a little bit more strict about things, so it's kind of a trend. All right, so take a look. First of all, think about what's happening. The whole foundation for this chapter is we're making purchases, like you would go to purchase furniture, and what you would get is like an installment agreement. What is an installment agreement? What does that mean?
You're going to make payments.
Right, you're going to make installments or payments. What else does that? Why is it called an installment agreement? What is always the same?
The payment?
The payment amount. It's always the same. Okay? For an installment loan. It says right here, a series of equal periodic payments. Okay? So, the amount financed, I don't have to write it up here for you. It's also a pyramid. I just wanted to show you the direction or the sequence. But the formula is right there. Now, in your problems, for instance, they will say John is buying, he's at the furniture store, he's buying furniture in the amount of $5,000. He's going to put down $1,000. So what you would do is subtract the down payment from the purchase price, and that would give you the amount that's being financed. Does that make sense? Common sense. I mean, most of us have done this, right? We can't always pay cash for everything when we buy it. So you can put down something in a car, right? Maybe $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, and the rest you have to finance. Now that down payment in the end is part of the cost of that purchase. We tend to forget that sometimes, you know, because 5 years passes after you've paid off a car and you're so glad with that last payment, and you start thinking about, okay, how much did I pay in total with interest and everything? But you have to remember that if you put down a down payment, that's part of the cost too. You know, so anyway, we'll look at several examples between now and Monday. Back to this. Step 2, the finance charge, also called the interest. Now the total of all monthly payments, I'll write this aside. Who can tell me what it would be? The number of payments? The total number of payments you're going to make? Like in other words, if you're paying monthly for 5 years, that would be 60 payments, right? The number of payments times what?
The amount?
The monthly, or I say monthly, but the payment amount. So that's how you get the total of payments. Can everybody read that? The total of payments represents, it includes the finance charge. The total of payments includes the interest in it. So what we have to do just to find the interest or the finance charge is we subtract from the total of payments the amount financed. Think about what's happening. We got the amount financed in step 1. This is the amount that you're paying, but that does not include the interest. The amount financed does not include the interest. Total of payments does. So when we subtract out the amount we financed, which doesn't include the interest, what does it leave us with? Just the interest. Does that make sense? That was the long way of explaining it. Okay, so you're going to do this over and over, so you have to get good at it. And then once we're done, some of your problems, maybe not all of them, will ask you for this, the deferred payment price. You simply take the total of all monthly payments, which we calculated already. Sometimes it will be given to you in the problem. Sometimes I believe they give it to you, the number in the problem. And all you do is add the down payment that you made back in the beginning when you first made the purchase. You just add it back in. And that is the true cost of that purchase. Does that make sense? That means yes. Here's an example. Okay, so we have Mary. She wants to buy a boat. And the boat costs $9,345. Now she's going to put down $300. So she's going to finance whatever the balance is, the rest, right? That's what they're telling us here. Now she's going to do this for 60 months at 10.5% interest. That's the interest she's going to pay. Now look here. They gave you in the problem the monthly payment. You didn't have to calculate it. But you're going to use it over here, okay? You're going to use it over here. So calculate the amount financed, which is the first step. Calculate the finance charge, which is the second step. Calculate the deferred payment price, which is the third step, just like they're laid out here. Okay? These are the same formulas you just looked at on the previous page, in the same order, just with an example. So, the amount financed. Now make sure you don't get tricked here. I know you're smart enough, but I'm going to point it out anyway. Sometimes they write these backwards, right? In other words, the result is on the left-hand side instead of the right. Do you notice that? Here too.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that be confusing. So anyway, $93.45 was the price of the boat. She put down how much? $300. So she's financing $90.45. Now, pay close attention, especially to these numbers right here, because they use this example all the way through the presentation. It's used all the way through. The next thing is the finance charge. Now they gave us the monthly payment, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Finance charge is total of all payments, minus the amount financed, right? So the total of all payments, take a close look. How do we get that? The monthly payment amount times the number of
Months.
months, or times the number of payments. Make sense so far?
Mhm.
This right here is the answer for this. In other words, here's your total of payments. We're subtracting from that what? The amount financed that we got in step 1. And that isolates or leaves us with just the finance charge, the interest. Does that make sense? Good. The last part is the simplest. You take the total of all payments and you add back in the down payment. Total of all payments, which we calculated right here, and you add back to it the down payment. There is the true cost, the total cost of that boat. $11,962.80. So, any questions on that example?
This is coming really handy.
Huh?
So this is coming really handy.
What's that?
This, next time you want to go buy a car or something, next time you want to go buy a car or something, I mean, you could kind of use.
Well, yeah, a lot of the
kind
stuff,
figure out what exactly you're paying.
the stuff that we learn here, we haven't had time to do much, but I usually spend 2 or 3 days on, like last semester, I did a whole lecture on buying cars and things that a lot of things that people don't consider, just little things that can make a difference between saving thousands.
That's it.
Okay. All right, now, here are the steps. I don't know if you want to copy these down, but we're going to have an example in a minute. You might as well go ahead and look in your books if you want to locate the table, either the textbook or the supplementary book, a little thin one. What you want to find, I believe it's called the APR table, just like this. APR. Okay, and this table, you're going to see it works a little differently than the other ones. You're used to using like present and future value, and you find the intersection of 2 numbers, right? And that's your answer, your table back. This one works a little different. Your answer is going to be in a range. It will be in a range, which means it won't be just, for instance, 10.5%. It might be 10.5 to 10.75%. You'll see what I mean whenever I go through it, okay? So, is anybody writing this down before I move on? One thing you want to remember, and it's going to show in the example next, one thing you want to remember is this first step. You need the finance charge. We know how to get that, right? We just went over it twice. You divide the finance charge by the amount financed. So those 2 things either going to be given to us in the problem, or we'll have to figure it out on our own. One or the other, okay? You divide one by the other, and here's the thing you have to remember, a little extra thing here. Multiplied by 100. Multiplied by 100. The rest of this table, the steps, I'm going to show you how to do that now. How to use that table. But that first step is really important, that first one. Okay? So take a look. There was the formula we just discussed in step 1. Recognize it? Okay? Now would be a good time to look at the table if you want to, just to make sure you understand how to use it. Even though you have a table link, which I will show you on Monday in the quiz, not today, but if you want to make sure you understand how to use the table, I would recommend that. What happens here is we plug in the finance charge and the amount financed. We'll multiply it by 100. And you get this number here, this 2894. Now it's time to go to your table. Okay, I'm looking to see a few tables open. There might be an example up here. Let me check quickly. Just give me 1 second. I'll come back to this in just 1 second. So I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay. 60 payments. If you're looking at your table, the APR table, you find the number of payments, which is 60. And that number, what was it, 28 point, I forgot it again. 28. I have to go back.
2894.
2894. Okay, thank you. 2894. What you do is you find the number of payments, go to the right, and you're not looking for one number. You're looking for the two numbers that fall below or before and after that number. See it here? Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
2894 is right here in the middle of these two numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you follow this up all the way to the top, and then you get to the top, there's your answer. Now on the quiz, it'll be in the form of a drop-down table. So you won't have to type in and worry about, oh, if I don't type it in right, it's going to mark it wrong. No, it's a drop-down menu, and you choose the right choice. This will be one of the choices here. You know,
So how do you know which one?
that's your answer. It's a range. It's not one number.
So you use both.
Yes.
Okay.
10.25% to 10.5% in between.
Okay.
That's how we're doing it here.
How about if you were figuring your contract out? Which one would you do?
Oh, if you were in real life, you would have to be much more precise, I'm sure. Okay? I'm showing it this way in here because that's how it is in the quiz, that's how it is in the test. But if you're talking about thousands or millions of dollars for corporations who are borrowing money for whatever, for expansion, then that 0.25% difference would make a huge difference for interest. You know? So,
What kind of payments are these? Is this an actual table or is this a simple interest?
is it a what table?
This is an annual.
An actuarial?
I don't think so.
I'm just trying to figure out what kind of contract.
What kind of what? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Kind of contract?
Oh, what kind of contract where this would be used?
No, what type of rebate?
Huh?
Never mind.
Yeah, well, we're getting to the rebate fraction table. That's coming up later. Is that what you're referring to, that?
No,
No.
that's fine.
Okay.
I'll explain to you later.
All right. Yeah. Just trying to make sure that at least right now they understand how to use that table. Okay? Because it's a little bit different from the other tables, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and you'll see an example on Monday. But I'm going back a slide just in case anybody needed to take a look at that again. Now, as you see, 60 payments, we used 28.94, and that was our answer. Right? That was the answer. So that's how you get it.
And I'm asking a question. The way things are going now, technology-wise, there are programs they have out now to do this stuff. So where do you see these kind of class assignments going?
That's a very good question. I think I have a pretty good answer for it. Let me answer that with an analogy. Anybody in here who has taken accounting? Okay, I know you have. I thought there was a few more people. Okay, in accounting classes today, they still make the students do everything on paper because that way they better understand it. Even though in reality, in the companies, what do they use? They use QuickBooks software or something similar, or some proprietary software for their program, their company, and that does all the work and the calculations for them. So it's the same thing in here. That's why we're doing things more manually, in a sense. It could be even more manual. I mean, we could be in here, when I taught math in the past, we'd be working problems together, you know, on paper and then going over them. Some people still do it that
Well,
way.
it's like in my field. There's binary ones and zeros when we switch it to back into IP addresses, but there's online calculators for that too. So
Yeah, that's a good point, though.
they
The
have
reality is things are really automated these days. You don't have to open up a table. You would see someone at a bank, okay, let me look up in the table. No, of course not.
But what I'm getting at though,
We're
they
just
teach
showing
us-
you how it works.
No, that's fine. It's a lot better doing it this way than just in a program and put numbers in because you don't know what the hell you're doing. But this way you know what you're doing.
You know the logic behind the automated system,
Yeah,
how it
because
works.
when I bought my last vehicle last summer, everything's automated when they do your contract. They put in your down payment, they put in the amount of the vehicle, the interest rate, and he just stand back and wait for it to print out with all the right numbers. And, 20 years ago, you had a table.
I know.
that had
I know. Yeah, students these days have it a lot. Should I say better? I don't want to say easier.
I understand.
Even though that might be the truth.
Or the education system's gonna go, when you can sit back and Google anything.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody
I don't.
knows.
As a nation, I'm not sure if we're getting smarter. To be honest,
I think we're getting lazier.
I-
definitely
Yeah,
lazier.
definitely lazy.
Well, we could be polite and say more efficient. Okay, so here's an example for you. Now this is calculating the monthly payment by formula. Not by table, but by formula. See the difference? We're not using any table. Look at it, it's a pickup truck, and it shows a price or a monthly payment of $194.38. Okay, now look at the formula here for monthly payment. Finance charge plus amount financed. Now who can tell me, what does this also represent? Say it again?
Division?
Oh no, not the line, no. These two things together. The finance charge plus the amount financed. That represents the total of payments.
Right.
It's the same thing as saying the total of payments, okay? Divided by the number of payments, which is 60. Finance charge, amount financed, divided by number of payments, and you get 194.38. So you can do this without a table if they give you enough information. If you're given enough information, which you will be in the problem. You know. So it's possible you'll have to do it both ways. From what I remember, I think it was mainly the table. We'll find out soon though. Any questions on this? It's just a second way to do it, that's all. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, here's calculating the monthly payment by table. Calculating the monthly payment by table. Okay? Now look at the first step. Now don't get it confused with the other one. Before you stop writing just for a second, because I'm going to scroll back just to show you something, then I'm going to, just for 1 second, then I'll come back. Before I do that, look at this first step. So you don't want this process to get confused with the other one, the one where you have to use 100 instead of 1,000. Remember that one? Let me go back for a second just to show you. Right here. Okay. So whenever you're doing APR, that's whenever you multiply times 100. Whenever you're doing monthly payments, that's whenever you divide by 1,000. So in one of them, you're multiplying by 100. The other one, you're dividing by 1,000. So you don't want to get those two types of problems mixed up. Okay? Now, this is pretty simple to do, though. All right? Now, here's another table. It's time for a different table. The monthly payment table is not called the monthly payment table in your book. It's called the loan amortization table. Loan amortization. It's in there somewhere. Okay. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if anybody's still writing this, but I'll go to the next slide like I normally do with an example. Yeah, I've got to the point to where if I explain it here, I'm just going to say the same thing again. You know.
I was just writing down what you said.
Okay. 1 second here. They don't give us an example. Okay. I think they give it to us later on for some reason. No, that's coming next. That's something totally different.
Oh, so don't go along with this here.
No.
Okay.
Okay. No, it doesn't. And let me make sure that's clear.
Okay.
Usually they would give us an example. You know, you've
Yeah.
seen this 100 times, right? They give us these 3 colored steps, these 3 blocks, and then the next thing is an example. Well, this one doesn't show that for us. So you might want to pay a little bit closer attention to this right now.
Okay.
You know, look at step number 2. Once you take the loan amount, now the loan amount is the amount financed. The loan amount is the amount financed, same thing. Do you recognize the 90-45 that we've been using in this example? And you divide it by 1,000. Now who could tell me, do you have to punch that in on a calculator? No, you just take the decimal and move it 3 places to the left. And you get this number, okay? Then you go to the table, the amortization, loan amortization table, and you look up the rate, in this case 10.5, oops. I'll let maintenance clean that up. That's just one. And you look at the number of months, and notice the same thing. This is the same problem we've been looking at, right? It's the same numbers. At the intersection of that table, it'll show you 21.49, and then you multiply that 21.49 times the number you got in step 1. It's not that difficult to do, okay? You just have to remember not to get APR and monthly payment mixed up.
APR, you multiply by 100, and the monthly payment you
Divide by 1,000. And I believe there might be an example later. I don't know why they didn't put it right after this, but we'll look at some on Monday. So do you basically understand how that works? This table is very easy to use. All you're going to do is like you would normally do. You find 2 things and where they intersect, there's your number. The only table that's different in this entire course
is the APR.
Is the APR table. That's the only one that you have a range. That you have that range for your answer, okay? Okay, this one. Here's another table for you. We're almost, I think this might be the last one or maybe one more. But it's called the rebate fraction table. First of all, let's define what that means. The rebate is the amount of interest that you are saving by paying off a purchase before its maturity. Does that make sense? In other words, I'm not going to pay off my car in 5 years, I'm going to pay it off in 3.
Saving.
And so I'm going to save part of that interest, right?
Paying it off right.
Should. Sometimes there's a penalty for early payment of a loan, and sometimes they get you with that, and it might be $100 or $200 or something. But you still end up saving.
Quite a bit of money.
They got me like that one time, like, you sucker. But I still saved thousands of dollars on interest, by paying it off years early.
Was it a mattress?
No, it was a car.
They do that on mattresses.
Really?
Yeah. So you have like no payments for 6 months, and if you pay payments, they're going to charge you.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different arrangements. Who reads the fine print in the contracts? I got to admit, I don't. I just don't have time for it. I just hope that people are honest with me. Sometimes they're not. Let me explain how this table works. Now, it is in the little book. It is in the textbook also. It's a very small table. It's not a big table. But it is called the rebate fraction table. Okay? This is how it works. Now, I want you to first notice that these are not 4 separate columns. You use this table every time in terms of 2 columns, right? So here are 2 columns. You would use these 2.
And those 2.
Or, it depends on the problem, or you use these 2.
Those are your months.
Correct. Do you see what's happening? Months to go, it goes up to 30, and then where does it continue to 31? Over here.
So
use 2 columns.
the sum of digits, is that the amount of the payment?
Yeah, let's get to that next. The sum of digits, you count all of these numbers. You just punch them all in on the calculator and add them together, and that's what you'll get, 171. This will make more sense when we do a problem, trust me. Right now it doesn't make any sense, probably.
So that's how much you save?
It's leading up to that, yes.
Oh.
That's not how much,
Sorry.
that's not the amount. We're going to use that number, and there's a formula for rebate fraction, okay? So anyway, the months to go, let me explain that. The months to go, that means how many months you have left to pay on that purchase. How many payments do you have left? The months to go, months remaining. So in your problem, remember, they're going to give you that information, or you're going to figure it out from the problem, and you would come here, let's say you have 18 months left to pay. You would go to 18, and you would just go 1 space to the right. Ignore these 2 columns totally. Just pretend we're looking at these 2. You would find 18 months, go 1 to the right. That's the number you use in the formula. That is not the savings, okay? That's not how much you're saving. That's just the number you're using in the formula.
That's crappy.
No. So these are actually two separate examples here.
Get off a year and a half for this.
You'll see how it works. Okay. Now, again, here are the steps. The next slide does show a very detailed example. So unless you want to write this down, I'm going to go on to that next slide. I'll just be repeating what's up here. You know. But there's two things. These problems will have you find two things, and that is the rebate, the amount of interest you're saving by paying off a purchase early, and it'll ask you to provide the payoff. What is the payoff?
The amount you're going to pay.
You're going to pay to pay it off.
At
Pay
that
it
time.
off.
Yes, like when you go to the bank that day
Here's
and you're
the
going to
money.
pay off your loan, and let's say you still owe on another 2 years, well, your payoff is whatever you're paying that day. Now, the payoff amount changes every day, right? It'll change a little bit every day. It'll be a little bit higher usually.
And it'll tell you that payoff is good for so many days.
It's good for so many days, right? Well, it depends. I've had some tell me for 7 days or 10 days or whatever. Okay, but let's take a look at an example. All right. This is fairly involved, so pay close attention. All right. They ask us, what is the rebate of the finance charge, which is the interest you're saving, and also what is the payoff if we pay off this pickup truck loan after 27 months of payments instead of the total of 60 months of payments. So what's happening here is after 27 payments, we're going to pay it off completely. We came across some money, we did our tax refund, for instance, and we have the money to go and pay it off. Right? That's a smart thing to do with your refund. Unless the government takes it from you automatically if you owe it. Anyway, look at step 1. I'm going to go through each number. 60 is the number of total payments if you were paying, through the whole term, times the payment amount, the monthly payment amount. This gives you the total of payments. We talked about this 2 or 3 times already, right? The total of payments. Now notice this is a minus sign, minus 27.
Shalom.
27 is how many months we've had paid so far, right?
Yep.
So 27 times the payment amount, again, the monthly payment amount, that tells us how much we've paid so far. Up to this date, up till today. Now, why are we subtracting that with the total payments?
Because the amount you paid, you have to subtract from what you still owe so that you can get the total amount that you still owe.
Okay, I think you know what you're saying, or you know what you mean,
I know what I
or
mean.
vice versa, whatever. But the balance outstanding, that is the amount that you owe on that day. As of that day, when you walk in the bank to pay off that loan, the balance outstanding. Now, you're going to use this in another part. You're going to use this further down in the process. So the first step here is to calculate the balance outstanding. And how do you get it? Total of monthly payments minus
What you've already paid.
what you've paid so far. Now, step 2. Do you recognize this number again? Total of monthly payments minus amount financed. It doesn't tell you that here, but this is the amount financed. Recognize the number? Now, that's how we get the finance charge. We've done this 3 or 4 times already too, right? It's the second formula, the finance charge. You have to have that finance charge to do the rest of the problem. So step 2, find the finance charge. Step 3, now this is where things take a little bit of a turn here for us. 60 is the total number of payments, supposedly, right? Or was supposed to be. And 27 is the number of payments we've made already. This is where you have to be careful, where you can go wrong and trick yourself. Or just make that one little mistake and you don't get credit for that problem. 33 payments are remaining. You see how we got that? Now, what you're going to use in the formula, look at step 4. Do you use 27 anywhere?
No.
No. You use 33 from the rebate fraction table, 33 from the rebate fraction table, and you also use what? 60. So when you use the rebate fraction table, you have to use it how many times? Twice. You have to do it for the top number and for the bottom number. If you want to look at your tables and see how this is calculated, or how we got this, it shows. If you don't think you need to, then you're okay. Or you'll see it on Monday, either one. Because I'm going to go over it again. Like,
That's how you get those two numbers, so the 560.
that's how we get this fraction, yes. So here's your answer. For step number 4, in other words, imagine just this. The 561 over the 1830. That represents the fraction or the percentage of interest you will be saving, which is also called the rebate. Does that make sense? This fraction represents the fraction of interest, of the total interest that you will be saving. See? Now in step 5, we take that fraction we got from the rebate table, we multiply it times what? You recognize this? Finance charge times the finance charge. And 802.51 is how much interest you are saving. That is your rebate. So in your problem, you would go and plug in that answer. There's answer 1. Answer 2 is very simple. It's just the last step. Now, be careful, though. You're subtracting the rebate from the balance outstanding. So step number 6, balance outstanding minus rebate equals payoff. Balance outstanding minus rebate equals payoff.
How did you get the 561?
Okay,
Is it because of the?
it's in the table. Yeah, so the
Rebate.
number of months, 60.
Equals
Well, you have to use it twice, actually. Do the table twice. You have to do it once using 33 months, and then once using 60. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then all you do is, when you go down to 33, you move one column to the right, and this is the number you'll get. Does that make sense? No?
Okay.
So now we're doing.
That's
You
not
want,
how,
you want to look at the table again?
no, but that's not how they do it in real life.
Okay.
Oh, in real life? No, of course not. No,
Because they
it's
charge you
automated.
more interest at the beginning. And if you've got 33 payments left, you're not going to pay the same interest as you did the first 20-something payments. Because they charge you more interest at the beginning because they want their money first.
Depends on what type of
That's exactly what I was going to say. It depends on the terms of the
Yeah,
loan.
I get it. You're right, it is. Because if you buy
Sometimes it's equally distributed.
because if you buy a car, a vehicle, they want the
I know what
interest
you
up
mean,
front.
yes.
The same if you're buying a house, they want all their
If
interest
you're
up
gonna
front.
pay a car or a house off early, it's just best to do it as early as possible, because yeah, you're paying a higher amount of interest in the beginning, and it slowly declines with that mortgage year every month.
And number 2, where the matter.
But you're right, because if you call
And number 2, I have a question, hold on. And number 2, where did this come from? This is the amount financed. So total of payments is the same example. Total of payments minus the amount financed. It's one of your basic formulas. You know, it was on the first slide.
And then number 6, that answers what you're paying for.
That is the payoff. That when you go into the bank that day, that is what you're going to pay them to pay off and be done with. Now the balance outstanding is $64,1454, but do you have to pay it? No, you only pay this much. Because why? You're saving that much in interest.
So is 802 the rebate?
Yes, it's how much you're saving. They call it a rebate. I mean, you're not
Just
going to get
wanted
it in the
make sure I
mail.
understood.
Any more questions?
Who does installment loans?
Is this your most?
This is an installment loan, so I guess the definition of an installment loan would be equal interest throughout the loan.
What do you think? No, not always.
It depends on the type of loan. That's what I was asking. Is this simple interest loan, or is this a rule assembly
Oh.
loan? Or is this an actuarial loan?
I know it's probably getting farther than what we're doing.
It is. I mean, I don't think that's even a consideration here. You know, and like I said, I don't have a lot of experience in the finance field like you do, and dealing with loans. I have academic experience. You know,
Yeah.
so
Because when we do loan, when Fort Credit did loans, so we had our loans, that's all we did. It was all simple interest. We didn't use a table to figure out what payments were, because we just manually calculated it.
do you mean equal interest with every payment?
No, you take the interest times how many days in a month, If you were doing a amortization schedule.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's declining interest with every payment.
right.
Okay.
So and of course, nobody pays the same payment every month.
Yeah.
You know, because of mail or whatever the date it falls on. So the interest is charged on the days from the last payment to the next payment, then you take the interest out of the payment, and the rest goes to principal.
Yeah, you learn about that in Financial Mathematics Part 2, or 2, you know, Principles 2, whatever. Which they don't have one here, I'm just kidding. But you would learn about, if you study contracts and stuff like that in finance more, yeah, they would probably go way into detail on that kind of stuff. Now we're moving on to something different. We have something different. Now we're looking at credit cards. Revolving interest, okay? Not a good thing. What we have to do, and I didn't write it up here, but one of the formulas you have to know is called the average daily balance, which you'll see in a couple of slides, the average daily balance. All right? This should not be much of a challenge for you. Let's see if there's anything important here that we don't understand yet. I did mention this a while ago, and I'll say it again. When you pay payments on a credit card, you make a payment every month. So much of that payment goes to interest, and so much goes towards reducing your balance, your principal balance that you owe. First, they take out the interest, of course, and then whatever's left goes toward your balance reduction. Does that make sense? Okay, because you're going to have to do that. You'll have to do a payment schedule. You'll have a problem. Well, you'll have to do what I just said. You know, it's just the same thing over and over. So keep that in mind, all right? Whenever we get to that point, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'll be getting that to this chapter.
Yeah.
This is not a bad chapter. This is actually useful for your own personal life.
Oh yeah, easily.
This whole course, most of it. This is 3 different examples, or these are 3 different examples, all right? Each row is an example. This is just to give you an idea of how you're getting screwed, or how...
Jesus,
It's
that's
okay, we can use
ridiculous.
that. That's great.
I don't know how else to say it, because you are.
You are. From 5,000 to 16,000?
Well, yeah.
That's
Now, what
Holy
usually
days.
happens is, when they figure out your monthly payment on a credit card balance, whatever your balance is, at the end of the cycle of that, in the end of that monthly cycle, that 30-day cycle, what they will do is usually take about 2% of your outstanding balance, whatever you owe. Something like that, okay? So that'll be your minimum monthly payment, usually. Now, look at this first example. Let's say that you have a $1,000 limit on your credit card, and you go to wherever you go, and you charge $1,000 in merchandise. Now, you're not going to use it anymore, okay? You've maxed it out. For this example, we're pretending like you're not making any payments. You're just making the minimum monthly payment every month, and you're not charging anything else on it after that. Does that make sense? Because you want to get it paid off. You want to quit using it. But if you made the minimum payment every month, and that's all you made was just that, if your balance is $1,000 and your interest rate is 17% on that card, it's going to take you 17 years, roughly, to pay back that balance. And you're going to pay this amount. So the interest will be what? $1,590.35. So you're paying back more than double. You don't realize that over time, you know, you're just making that minimum monthly payment. But I made the mistake with the Discover card back when I was a student, you know, like in the early 90s, whatever. And I took like 10 years or something like that. I just kept making the minimum monthly payment, and that was actually my maximum. It was $1,000 at the time. And I realized after 10 years, when I finally paid it off, I'm like, okay, look at how much interest I have to pay.
That's
Now-
why they make them put that on your bill now. They make them put that on your bill now.
Oh yeah, I've noticed. Well, I haven't noticed because I pay my balances off every month. So. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the law requires that. They don't wish to do that. Yeah. Look at the second example. Look at the second one. $2,500 is what your limit is. Let's say you max it out. Well, making the minimum monthly payment for 17% interest, add 17%, 30 years to pay back, and you will pay back triple, more than triple, a little bit more than triple of what you owe.
That's awful.
Yes. Now, payday loans are even worse. I don't know if anybody ever used any of those.
Uh,
You can get them online, too. It's very simple.
Really?
Well, I'm not speaking from experience, but I know people, I have friends that do this. They get desperate or whatever, and there's hundreds of companies online do these payday loans, and it's even worse than this. So you got to be careful with those. They'll really get you. Look at this last example. If the max is $5,000, you maxed it out, minimum monthly payment, it's going to take you 40 years at that rate. And you're going to pay back more than, again, a little bit more than triple. So look how much interest you paid. You borrowed $5,000 and you're giving them back 16. You know,
Give them back a
7,000.
little over triple.
yeah, right. So where's the lesson here? Try to pay your balances off every month. Now, when you're a student, I know that's difficult. But once you start to earn better income and once you have a better paying job and so forth, keep 3 credit cards at least, I would say. 3, maybe 4 at the most. And don't go over 15% of the max. Did we talk about that before? I think we did. That's how I do mine. I go up to 15%. In other words, if I have a $1,000 limit, I will go up to $150 that month on that card. No
That's how
more.
it hurts your credit score.
Because it will affect your credit score. A lot of people don't know that. Even if you pay it off every month. So in other words, if I charged $1,000 every month, and that was my max, if I pay it off every month, I'm still losing points on my credit score because they're showing me, it shows you as being a greater risk because you're spending more money. I know it's stupid, it's not fair, but it's the
I
way it
want to
is.
say if you're paying it off, when they care.
That's right. But this country, I can go on and on about that. They need to really sit down with a committee of very important people and totally redo that and get rid of TransUnion. They need to be gone. There's no reason why, with
Yeah.
all the lawsuits that they've been through.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, did we talk about that in here one day?
I'll make you here for time.
Maybe not. Okay, maybe towards the end if we have time.
I feel better.
We'll talk about credit management.
I filed the credit union for 6 months, and I got my way.
I need to switch
I want
to
to
credit.
go 3 something.
All right, now this is important for you. We're almost done. This is important. These are 3 payments. These are 3 monthly payments. Now remember this, you're going to do the same thing for each one. In other words, the method is the same for every one. So if you understand the first one, the first row, then you know how to do the rest of them. Okay? Let's take a look. Right now we owe $8,000 on this credit card or this loan, whatever. Now the interest is 1.5%. Can you see this? That's why we have 0.015 here.
You have to times it.
And you multiply times what?
Out.
The balance outstanding, and that gives you how much interest you have to pay for that month. Now, how much is your monthly payment? Your monthly payment is $500. You notice how it's the same every month, $500? But every month, they take out the interest first. So it's based on what? Whatever your outstanding balance is times the interest rate. And whatever is left over, you see over here, look at this column. 500 is the monthly payment. We subtracted what from it? The interest. So $380 will go towards our principal, towards reducing it. So we subtract the $380 from what? The outstanding balance. Here's our new outstanding balance. Does that make sense? And then what happens is it carries over to payment number 2. See how it carries over?
Your checkbook.
And then look over here. The outstanding balance at the end of payment 2 carries over to period number 3. And just so on.
Get it.
Huh?
So I get it. I'll get it next week.
You will. I'm sure. Yeah, you always do. Question?
So is the balance the principal then?
Is the balance the principal? In other words, the outstanding balance, I hate, sometimes we use those words interchangeably in here, but the outstanding balance, really the definition of that is, that's what you owe on any particular day. A
That's
principal,
interest and principal, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's both together. Now, the principal would be defined as like if you go to a bank and you borrow $5,000, okay? That is the principal amount that you borrowed. So yeah, I guess you could think of it as the principal, and your principal is declining with every payment.
That's why you want to pay more every month.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So do you see how to do the calculations? It's the same for every row. And I promise you will have at least 2 of these. So they're not hard. Okay. We have a little bit more. Ready for the next ones? We're not quite done yet.
We going over the test today?
Huh?
We're going over the test?
Oh no, there won't be time. No,
Everybody jumped on you on that one.
there won't be time.
Mr. Overachiever over there.
Now these steps, again, you don't have to write this down, because right after this there's an example. If you want to wait for a second. And just look at that. Okay, here's the first part of the example. Now, if it were up to me, I wish I could show both of the next 2 slides, this one and the next one together, because I'm going to have to go and bounce back and forth as I'm explaining it. So get ready for that. I'll have to go back and forth, okay? This is an example, a very basic one, of a credit card statement. Does this look familiar? Do you ever look at your statements?
Yep.
I go paperless all the time. I always choose to go, the less mail, the less paper.
I hate mail.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I look at it online. I look at it often, like every week, just to make sure there's no fraudulent transactions and stuff. That does
I hate
happen.
mail.
I do too every week.
It's the worst ever.
What?
There was no mail. I hate
Oh,
mail.
mail?
Mhm.
Especially if you work with the mail.
Oh.
You know, and I hate to get, not to get off track too much, but being teaching is kind of similar, because you finish this large group of papers you're grading, and guess what? There's a big load of papers right behind waiting. You finish that one, guess what? There's another one waiting. There's another load waiting, a stack. It just never stops, you know. But it's money, so
Yeah.
you get. Anyway, so here is the statement. Now look at what's happening. Keep this in mind. Most of your problems, most of them, we use a 30-day billing cycle. That's going to be relevant in the next slide. Okay, you're going to use that number 30. Actually, they show it as 31. I think that might be a mistake, but you'll see what I mean. Now on 8/20, the cycle starts. The cycle goes every 30 days. So what does that mean? From August 20 to what? To
Number 19.
September 19th, or we could say September 20th. Okay, and the balance on the first day of this cycle is $210. It is also the balance or the ending balance for the previous cycle. Does that make sense? It just carries over to the next cycle every 30 days on your credit card statement. So on 8/27, what happened here? We made a payment. That's why it shows a $50 credit. Now, is that going to increase or decrease your balance? It's going to decrease it because you're making a payment. That means you owe less. Now, whenever you make a charge at Staples 4 days later for 30, that will increase your balance, right? Because now you owe more. You made a purchase. Now, what happened here on the 5th? We made a payment again of $10. Why, I'm not sure, but and on the 10th, we made a cash advance of $60. Now, everybody knows what that is, right? That's just getting cash from your credit card. They charge you a higher interest rate usually for cash advances.
And that is the last, like, one of the last things you put on.
What do you mean by that?
Like, if you put money towards it, they'll say that it wasn't towards your cash.
Oh, really? Just any little way to get
Yeah.
more from us.
Yeah.
We can't blame them, they're in business to make money, so. They have no.
I was having this discussion, and this is relevant to what we're talking about. I just had a discussion with someone about 2 hours ago. Why is it in business or just in our country, just in general, why is it whenever we're late on something, we get a late charge, whenever we inconvenience a company, we get a fee, we get this, we get that, but whenever they inconvenience us, they might fix the problem, but they don't give us any money for it.
For credit. That's right.
Why don't we get something? That's not fair. Huh?
Free market enterprise.
That's the answer? I just think the government needs to step in and do something about it, you
I
know?
think Karma will get them.
Karma's gonna get them? Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. And my answer to that is I'm a pessimist and question every single thing. And if karma really does exist, not that it has anything to do with this class, but then why do bad things happen to good people? I'll leave you with that thought.
Yeah.
Well, Verizon for giving people all kinds of fees and
Huh?
stuff. For bill,
Oh,
Verizon
yeah.
Wireless got in a lot of trouble for billing people for stuff.
Class
they didn't
action
want.
lawsuit? Yeah, that does happen. What I'm saying is in general, if you get inconvenienced and it's the company's fault, they might fix the problem, but they don't give you any compensation for the inconvenience. is what
The
I'm
other
saying.
side of it too is when Bank of America was going to start charging for their transactions or whatever through their ATM,
Yeah, I
a bunch of
remember that.
people uprose and fought for it, and they took it off. But that's the problem, though. Like, we're not enough people fight for what they think it should be. It's just they accept the answer and just let it go.
Let me tell you this, and we have time. We're almost done. And this will help you too. Everything I'm telling you is I'm trying to help you in your own lives, in case you're running the same situation. Because I was just on the phone earlier about something that I'm involved with a possible lawsuit. And let's put it this way: I won't mention the shop's name just to be nice, but they have screwed up my vehicle 3 times. It is the same repair 3 times, and what happened is the wheel on the right front wheel just 2 days ago did this. Now imagine going down the road and one of your wheels does
What if
this.
you were on like 25?
Well, I just got off 3 minutes. 3 minutes after I got off, I was in a parking lot. It happened. I got lucky because the car probably would have flipped and you'd have a substitute teacher right now. So anyway, what I'm saying is I called 3 or 4 lawyers right before I came into this classroom, and unfortunately, they feel like I don't have a case. I'm like, how do you figure that? They put my life in danger not once but 3 times. Don't I deserve something for that? But the answer, it looks like it's no. You know, they're over there fixing
Not
it
unless
right.
something happened, then there'd be.
Well, yeah, but then if it happens again, I might not be around. My family might benefit
Yeah,
from it.
that's ridiculous.
We're gonna be cutting your brakes soon, like, we get this guy out of here.
They don't like me. I don't like them. It's very clear. Yeah. I'm going there today after this class. So.
I hope the mechanic's not named Brent.
I don't mind mentioning the shop. It's Apr Auto and Body with Whitman. I would not go there.
Abra?
Yes.
I went to my truck here to get fixed. They were pretty good.
Well, I just,
He's like,
It
good
was all
luck.
body work. It was just body work.
It's a love-hate relationship.
My buddy
well,
mechanics.
I guess everybody's
That's good
different.
to can.
But I do know they're really bad at communication. I've heard other people say that too. They don't return phone calls and emails.
Oh, man.
My insurance company sent me there in the beginning.
My buddy's mechanic is named Assholes Garage.
Oh, I did.
I just go to him.
To me, it's a big deal, but life's not fair. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and explain how to calculate this last problem when we get out of here. So, over here in this column, I'm going to go back to the previous slide in just a second. But this represents the number of days the balance remained the same or remained at some amount before we did what? Either made a payment or purchased something. That's what this column represents. Now, for the first 7 days of the billing cycle, if you remember slightly, there were 7 days that we didn't do anything. So the balance stayed at $210. Now imagine a multiplication sign right here. Okay? 7 times 210 is 1470. That's what's happening here all the way across. All the way across. Okay? What happened? It was 4 days later whenever we made a $50 payment. Remember that? So we're going to subtract 50 from what? The previous balance? And we get 160. Now take a close look at this. This is not 160 times 210 minus 50. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, there's totally how they calculate.
Well, I'm just making sure you see that. 210 minus 50 equals 160. That's what it's showing. So 4 times 160 is 640. The next one, it was 5 more days, and I think we went to Staples, right? It's been $30. So we add $30 to the previous balance, which was 160, see? And then we get 190. 190 times 5 days is $950. Now we do the same thing until we get to the end of the billing cycle. Now why do we have a 10 at the end? Because who remembers when the last transaction was? It was on 9/10, okay? And it's a 30-day billing cycle. So it goes from what? The 20th to the 20th every month. So to get from the 10th, the 9/10 to 9/20, how many days do you have to add? 10. And when I go into this on Monday, it'll make even more sense. You see the actual problem. But again, the previous balance of 180, we had a cash advance here, right? So we added $60 to it, and we get 240. 180 plus 60, 240 times 10 is 2,400. Now we're closer to the end. In this column, you will add all these numbers together. And then finally, to get your average daily balance, this is the whole point of all this stuff, we take that number and divide it by the number of days in the billing cycle. Now I think that might be an error. It's not? Why do they use 31?
Because that's what they all told us.
What's the 30-day billing cycle? So I guess it's 31 days in that month. Okay, I see.
What happened to meat year?
Don't even go there. You're not going to get that. Someone else asked me that in another class too, but I won't give you any problems like that.
And it's still alive.
Actually, there is a problem. There is one problem as a 28-day billing cycle.
Oh man.
So, and I think it's on your quiz, but you'll use 28 right here instead of 30. Okay, so we'll go over that later. Now take a close look. The average daily balance, which means your balance on any given day of that 30-day cycle, is on the average $205.16. Do you see how we got that average? We did all these calculations to get that average. Now, once you get that average daily balance, you might not be through. They might ask you, what is the finance charge for that month? You take the average daily balance and multiply times what? They're going to give it to you in the problem, but it's usually 2%.
So that's the rate there.
So
That's not the interest rate. That's what they use to calculate your monthly payment. The interest rate in our problem was 17%. If I'm thinking right, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, in this type of problem,